Hey high schoolers, hope you guys are doing well. We are obviously in a time where we are secluded from each other and we can't be around each other anymore, but we still want to continue to do our high school Bible study. And so that's what we're going to do here today. But you guys have my phone number. I think most, if not all of you, have my phone number, and so you guys can feel free to text or call me. I do not have iPhone, so I have an Android, so I do have an app called Google Duo. If you guys want a video chat at all, you can do that. You can download that app and we can do that. But for now, you guys can use this website, cumcmosaic.com, and if you go to weekly content and hit high school content, you'll be able to find these videos, and I'll keep you guys updated on some stuff. I've also got a Faith and Life blog on the website as well, if you guys want to do some reading as well. But also, let's just get creative. If there's some creative ways that we can still do things together via the internet or via video feed, feel free to just bring those up with me, okay? So why don't you guys take out your Bibles and open them up to Luke chapter 8. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because actually I just want you guys to read it. And we, last time we met, I think we read through verse 18, which was through like the parable of the four soils. There's a short little section, 19 through 21, where Jesus talks about his true family. I want you guys to read that. Then there's a section, Luke chapter 8, starting with verse 22 through 26. This is the section where Jesus calms the storm, where he falls asleep in the boat, and so you guys can go ahead and read that as well. The section that I'm gonna read today, and this is the only section I'm gonna read, is verses 26 through 39. And this is when Jesus heals a man who is demon possessed. So I'm just going to read this, and then we can talk just for a few minutes, and then I'll let you guys go, and you guys can read this on your own and study it, and maybe even talk with somebody in your family about it as well. So it says, they sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. And when he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet. Shouting at the top of his voice, he said, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the evil spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot, he kept under guard. He had broken his chains and had been driven by the demons into a solitary place. Just think about that. My parents have had experiences back in the 70s and 80s when they were getting into their faith. They became Christians in the 70s, and they actually worked with people in the occult, which is like people who really either participate in satanic worship, witchcraft, other things like that, which we don't actually, a lot of us don't think that stuff exists, but it actually is really real and exists in the world. And so they've actually had experience with people who have been demon-possessed, and it's amazing, some of the stories, because you'll realize that sometimes when you come across a person who's demon-possessed, it takes 4 or 5 or 6 grown men to restrain them, which is crazy. It's beyond human ability for some of these people to be that strong, and it's because of this demon possession. And so this is really real. When I read this passage and it says that he had been chained several times, but that he had always broken the chains, and then driven, the demon caused him to be naked and then break the chains and then go to solitary places, and now he's living in a graveyard. I mean, you can just imagine how scary that is. You can also imagine the people in that area just kind of being used to the fact that there's this crazy person who's demon-possessed that lives in the tombs, and that's what's going on. And so verse 30, continuing on, Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him, and they begged him repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and the demons begged Jesus to let them go into them, and he gave them permission. And when the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. And when those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they went off and reported this into the town and the countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. And when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. So we just ended verse 35. It's one of my favorite verses in the whole of the Bible. That the people, they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at Jesus' feet in his right mind, and they were afraid. And so that's actually the question for this week. That's the big kind of lesson point in my mind that as I was reading Luke chapter 8. I thought, here are these people, this community that was used to this man living in the tombs, and they had gotten used to the fact that he was living there. And they were actually kind of comfortable with the fact that he was living there. Yet the Son of God who comes and heals the man, and they find the man in his right mind, sitting at Jesus' feet. He's sane. He's not insane anymore. He's actually got his mental capacities back again. That's what makes them afraid. This is the kind of stuff we don't normally point out when we're reading the Bible, because this is where the Bible, it gets complicated. So that's my question for you guys. Why do you think these people were afraid? Afraid of Jesus, first of all, and afraid of a man who was insane but now is better. Why would they be afraid when he's better? Verse 36, something to think about, okay? Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, because they were overcome with fear. So it's the same thing again. They want Jesus to leave. They're afraid. They're more afraid of Jesus than they are of a demon-possessed man. Just think about that. So he got into a boat and left. All right. So there's a couple things that I'm thinking of, and then I'm going to finish. So the first question is, why are these people afraid? We already said that. And also the fact that they asked him to leave, and he did. I think there's a couple things that happen to us today, in our culture today. But this same kind of stuff happens. I think that people are actually more afraid of Jesus than they are of sin, or they are of things that are happening in the world. So you can go into culture, you can live, you can do whatever you want. You kind of just get used to the way that culture operates. You kind of just get used to the way that people think, the way that people talk. You get used to the way that things apparently are. And when you meet Jesus, sometimes it can be really scary because it's just really, really different than what you're used to. The other thing is, a lot of times people downplay how much their opinion actually matters to God. God gave us this thing called free will. Actually, that was our confirmation lesson for this week as well, for the 8th graders, was about free will. And God gives us this free will to be able to accept him and to be able to love him and to be able to follow him, but he also gives us this free will to be able to tell him to go and to tell him to leave. And the amazing thing, the humbling thing, is that Jesus did. And so this is where a lot of people who have thought about the Bible and have thought about Jesus actually get this idea of hell from. Hell is a place where you can tell God to leave, and he will. And so a lot of times we create hell in our own lives. We create a living hell because we repeatedly tell God to leave our life. And he will leave. He will leave. He will not force himself upon you. He will not insist that he has his way in your life. In fact, you are the only person who gets to choose which way you're going to go. So this passage this week in Luke 8 in particular is really humbling. It's really challenging for all the reasons that you normally wouldn't think it is. And it's because usually we're used to people accepting Jesus, loving Jesus, people wanting to follow Jesus, and all that stuff happened in the New Testament too. But here in this story, we find people who are confronted with Jesus and that they want him to leave. They're afraid of him. In fact, they would rather have a demon-possessed guy naked and in the tombs than Jesus. And so my question for you is why? And so I'm just going to leave it there. So why don't you guys, for next week, let's do Luke chapter 9. And and we'll go that route. But on the blog post here, if you guys create an account, I think you should be able to click up in the upper right hand corner. I haven't tried this out yet, so hopefully this works, but I think you can click on members, and then you can become a member. You can log in with Facebook or with your Google account and create a login, and then you can be able to comment on these things as well. So if we were able to get a little bit of a conversation going, that would be awesome. So enjoy it. Keep in touch with me. Hopefully you guys are staying safe, and please let me know if you need anything here in the upcoming weeks and months. All right, see you guys.